Today we're talking about art books, and as you guys can see, I have a lot of them. But does that mean that I have a strong opinion about them? I guess let's find out. So when we talk art books, we kind of have... Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, that's better. So here's the thing. When it comes to art books, there's really two things that I get asked kind of a lot. First and foremost is, are art books necessary? And then second is, what art books do you recommend? Now, I'll address the first one really quick right off the bat. And the answer is yes. I'm going to be honest. I wanted to come out the gate saying no and have some kind of edgy response to how the internet can basically cover any kind of book you need. But I'll explain why I said yes later in the video. Now for that second question of what books do I recommend, that's a loaded question. I'm going to have to talk from my personal experience and what I've used. So I've come up with a system of 4 categories that we're going to use to kind of break these books down. These 4 categories are going to be Art 101, kind of the basics, what you need for art school. We're going to have what I call the invest in yourself. And this is going to be more career focused kind of books. So that's very personal to you. Next, we have the inspiration and reference. And then lastly, we have miscellaneous, otherwise known as the art books your parents buy you when you first tell them that you want to do art. But they have a place. So in Art 101, you have your book categories, kind of like anatomy and other things like that. These are books that I've kept from art school. So I have drawing the clothed figure. And then another one I reference a lot is animal anatomy. Now, at the time of buying these, you might not think that much of these books, and you're going to be thinking mainly, I want to get in my foundation classes and I want to go to the exciting stuff, the stuff I want to do. We're all there in art school or wherever you are in your art path, but these are the books that you're probably going to reference the most later in your future and in your career. If you guys can see, I have a lot of notes and stuff in this book, and I reference it all the time, especially when I go to make some of these videos that I make for you guys, such as proportions and anatomy videos coming up. I mean, just speaking of my videos, the Drawing People book is literally where I got the references and the categories for my clothed figure series. So Art 101 is basically going to be the books that you refer to the most, and they have the most information in them. There's stuff that you can refer back to all the time, and you really should. They're what's going to get you through the basics, and they're going to keep you learning throughout your whole life. And they're one of the reasons that I didn't say no when I asked the question, are art books necessary? It's really nice to have a solid foundation to return to, something that you're kind of familiar with and you remember that you can always kind of look back to and refer to. So think of these books as your map. Now, a map leads you to somewhere, and as artists, we all have a career path in mind. So category 2, I called Invest in Yourself, and the reason I called it this is because these are the books that are going to be specific to your career choice. Now, I'm interested in graphic novels, comic books, and primarily storyboarding. So really, sequential storytelling is important to me. So when looking for these books, I looked for stuff that was related to storyboarding, sequential stories, graphic novels, like framed ink, writing and illustrating the graphic novel. I have Star Wars storyboards. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and also it's storyboards, so it helps in 2 ways. And then, of course, a big, giant Disney story book here. I think this goes without saying, but whatever your natural opinion about Disney is as an industry, their animation is usually top-notch. So if you have any interest in getting into the animation field, generally I would recommend looking into whatever book they make that is geared towards your focus. So just as an example, if you were like a painter, so to speak, this section is where you would have all your painting books. Maybe if you're an acrylic painter, you would have a bunch of books about acrylic methods and different types of mixing, palettes, and all that stuff. Now, how I utilize these books is they're really good to refer to when your mind just goes blank, you have art block or whatever it is. You can go in here, you can just copy straight out of these books just to kind of get something down on the page, sometimes as a warm-up. And they're really good for referencing dynamic shots, movement, energy, all that stuff that you really need to act and portray in storyboards. So having these around when I'm kind of not feeling it, but I still need to knock out my work, is pretty important. So the next section we're talking about is inspiration and reference. And now inspiration and reference doesn't necessarily have to correlate with the last category, but it could be something that you incorporate, right? So this could be something like a style that you really like, an artist that you really like with a style. It could be color studies, whatever stories are interesting you. And overall, there's something that you aspire to. Generally, a pretty basic guideline for what this is people have art books based on the movies that they like, animated movies. Now for me, something that I really like style-wise is a lot of pinup drawing. So I have like Shane Glines S-curves here. Modeling Mandy. I got this at Comic-Con. Can't show you inside this one for reasons. But not just that, I also have the art of Winnie the Pooh. Okay, so my interests don't just lie in one category, neither should yours. So this is where you kind of just fill your library with things that can inspire you. Again, if you're having that art block, this is something that you can draw some inspiration from, some creativity, spice it up. And this is the section of your art library that'll probably keep growing. All right, our last category that we have is the miscellaneous category. Now this is going to be the how to draw books that you've probably collected since you were a kid, or they could be other things too, like drawing manga or the beginner's guide to drawing cartoons, whatever it is. Now hold on a second. If some of you are rolling your eyes, I promise that some of these books do have merit, and let me explain why. If you're someone that's new to drawing, or maybe you're still just working your way up, these books are a really good start for learning how something complex can come from simple shapes. I know that might not seem like a big deal, but if you're still someone that kind of just draws the outline of a figure with really scratchy and unconfident lines, drawing from this book, even if you think these drawings look really silly, goofy, or just straight up bad, the fact that they start with circles, squares, and triangles, and then eventually layer onto those shapes to build up whatever characters showing you how to draw, it's so much more of an opportunity to learn than just, I don't know, copying your favorite anime character. Generally, these books too, since they have to kind of be like catchy to the eye for kids and stuff, they have a lot of dynamic and energetic shots in here, which they teach you how to draw. I mean, you know, there's definitely those books instances we know where it goes from 0 to 100 and the drawing's finished and you're like, how did I get there? But the fact is that this will be a good guideline if you can start with this as a foundation while you're going into your art classes, where you're going to be learning some really stiff proportion anatomy things. Having these as a background, or even having these as something that you just practice for fun, or you bring out whenever your nieces or nephews are around, or whatever it is, I'm honestly going to say that's a pretty good thing. So as a final say, that's why I couldn't say no that books don't matter. To me, they really do, and there's something that just constantly inspires me just seeing them on the shelf and pulling them for reference. Now, a lot of the questions that you guys have asked me that I've answered in the comments, literally the answers have come from these two books. And you guys can see, again, I make a lot of notes in these books, and I have a lot of tabs and highlighted sections in here. So they're a constant wealth of information, and I've had these for, I don't know, it's probably approaching 7 years now. So think of these books as an investment in you and your career and what you're really trying to do with art. Don't just default to Google Images. Don't just default to Pinterest, because you never know what you're going to get on those sites. Here you have some really nice information that was checked and agreed upon with several different artists and editors and all that good stuff. So you know that the information here is pretty decent. Alright guys, and that's everything I have for art books. If you like this video, let me know. This is the first video I've done vlog style, right? So if you guys want to see more of this, or you want to see maybe a little picture of my head floating around when I'm doing my drawing videos, let me know. I'd be happy to do it now that I have a fancy dancy ring light over here. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.